where is the inflation from all of this? This is what doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, look at we just got the numbers a couple days ago on import and export prices. And our import prices were up something like 7% year over year, and our export prices were up 9%. So the stuff that we're producing for export is 9% more expensive than the stuff we produced a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, so prices, the costs of production are going way up. And I don't necessarily know how much the CPI is manipulated. I just think it's been designed in such a way that a lot of the price increases end up getting smoothed out of the computation. This was by design. This is what they do. I often talk about it because I haven't done this in a while. But back in 2013, I did a video, which you can see on my YouTube channel, in which I looked at the CPI from 2003 to 2013, and there was a 10-year period. And, I didn't think it was accurate. So one of the things I looked at was newspapers and magazines. And according to the CPI, during the 10-year period from 2003 to 2013, the price of newspapers and magazines was up by 30%. Well, I decided to see for myself. So I went to 2003 and I looked at the price online of 20, I think, of the leading newspapers and magazines by circulation: Time, Newsweek, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, LA Times, all these big, Sports Illustrated, I forget, but I took a bunch of magazines and I just looked at the price on the cover in 2003. And I looked at the price in 2013, and I just took an average. And I got an increase of about 130% in the price of those magazines. But the CPI said they only went up 30%. So how do you put in 130% and 30% comes out the other end? That's the magic of the CPI, right? So and I'm assuming that the same is true with a lot of other prices. The prices are going up, but the government claims they're not, or they're going up by less. So, and this is by design, because the government doesn't want to be honest with the public about how much inflation there is. Mm-hmm. If they're honest, then they have to give bigger increases to spending that's attached, that has a CPI component. But more importantly, the way the Fed justifies keeping interest rates low is by claiming we don't have enough inflation. So they have to keep pretending that we don't have inflation, so they have a justification for deliberately pursuing policies to give us more inflation. So on the one hand, they lie about inflation and say it's lower than it is, and then they complain that we don't have enough inflation, and they demand that the Fed do something to create the inflation that the government is actually covering up, with their fraud. But all of this is designed to perpetuate this bubble, to keep it going as long as possible. But I think we've now gone so far beyond the point where we can continue to do this. The inflation rate is likely to be so high in 2021. I mean, I think the actual increase in the cost of living will rise in double digits this year, somewhere above 10%. And it's going to be very high. And a lot of that is going to be in the CPI. I mean, the CPI could easily end up being more than 5% for 2021. But if it's 5%, that means it's probably 15% in the real world. It's 5% in the fantasy world of CPI. But I think that even if we end up with 5% official inflation for 2021, at the end of this year, the Federal Reserve is still going to be at zero. They will not have raised interest rates. Now, maybe they're still going to pretend that it's transitory, and they're not going to do anything until it gets to 10% on the CPI, which means it's probably 20 or 30%. But of course, if you wait that long, I mean, you're so far behind the curve, you're never going to catch up. Yeah. Once you let inflation get that bad, you can't stop it. I mean, because in order to stop the inflation rate now, the Fed would probably have to move rates up maybe to 4 or 5%, which it can't do. I mean, it couldn't even get them to 2.5% without collapsing everything in 2018. And the bubble is much bigger now than it was then. So I don't even think we could survive 1%. But if they had to go to 5, I mean, everything would just implode. So how are they going to wait a year or two when they have to go to 10 or 20% interest rates?
Mhm.
to put the inflation genie back in the bottle. So
Yeah.
what people have to understand is that the United States is running a deliberate policy of inflation. We're just going to keep creating inflation and keep lying that we don't have enough of it, or that it's transitory, or keep pretending that we have a way to put a stop to it if it's ever too high. But we are repudiating our debts through inflation. And we are basically, the politicians are meeting all of their promises through inflation.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now, let's continue.
They're avoiding having to admit that we can't pay, because the alternative to inflating is defaulting. And there's no way the politicians are going to default. I mean, they don't want to default on the Treasury bonds, but more importantly, they don't want to default on Social Security. They don't want to default on Medicare. They don't want to default on all those promises that got them elected. And so the only way not to default is to inflate. But all that does is makes the money worthless.
Sure. All right. 2 or 3 points I want to jump back in with before we get too far away from it. So a couple of points of evidence to some of the things you said. One of my clients last week I was speaking to, he imports safes, so gun safes and things like that into the US, big company. And he said what's happening was last year or the year before, he was paying $5,000 for a shipping container coming in. He's now paying $16,000 for a shipping container going in. Oh. Another one of my clients works in that industry, and he said the containers are coming in full and we're sending them back empty. So it ties in with what you're saying about exporting the inflation, the paper dollars, the fiat currency out to other countries. How long does that go on for? Well, that's a question for another day, I think. But I also wanted to touch on another point, and Lynette Zhang's going to be really upset with me for saying this. But last week, my wife and I were going through a drive-through, some fast food. She hates it when I say this. And I got 2 tacos. My wife got a burrito. And, tacos, 99 cents, something like that. And the last time I bought some, $1.39 per each one. So that's a 40% increase in the price. Mm-hmm. Her burrito was not $3.79 or whatever it was. It was $5.79 or $5.89. Again, you're seeing this huge increase. So all these people saying, I'm not seeing these price increases, Neil. I'm not seeing them. Go to the store, just walk around. How can you not see these increases? How can you not see the increases in used cars? It is all around us.
Oh, the used car prices are ballistic. They're up like 30% year over year, something like that.
Yeah.
But look, first of all, what we're seeing in trade is a glaring evidence of the underlying weakness of the U.S. economy. The economies that are strong are the ones that are filling up all those containers with stuff. They're the economies that produce the stuff. The fact that we're shipping back empty containers shows you how weak our economy is. We've got nothing to put in there. And that's one of the reasons that the containers are so expensive now, is because if you ship a container to the United States, not only is it the cost of shipping it to the U.S., but now you have to pay the cost of bringing it back, because there's not a U.S. exporter that's going to cover that cost, because we're not exporting. So you as the person who's selling containers to the U.S., you've got to pay to bring that container back empty so that you can fill it up again. Mm-hmm. But so the cost of shipping stuff to America is going way up, and the cost of producing the stuff is going way up too. Because you have a lot less production. I mean, look at what you just said with the fast food. I mean, costs of preparing fast food. Obviously, food prices. Look at a chart. Look at corn. Look at wheat. Look at soybeans. Look at all the ingredients that go into making that food are going way up. Energy costs are going way up, right? The cost of cooking the food. But what about the labor? I mean, minimum wage keeps going up, 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 up. But not just that, a lot of the restaurants can't even get workers because they have a much better deal from the government to stay at home and not work. So now the restaurants that are opened up, they have to pay a premium to get people to give up their unemployment benefits and come to work. Plus, you have a lot of these restaurants where they're on 50% capacity, so they don't even have as many diners to spread out their fixed cost over, right? You have restaurants that are half empty, so they have higher pay, they can't do as much volume, so they have to make up for it with rising prices. I mean, prices are just going to go through the roof. I mean, nothing could be more obvious. We are just getting started, right? They're looking at these big jumps in prices and thinking that this is just transitory. Yeah, we're transitioning to extremely high inflation. That's what's transitory. And the gains that we're seeing early in 2021 are going to be dwarfed by the gains that we see in late 2021. So instead of inflation prices picking up and then coming back down, they're going to go up, and then they're going to go up even faster.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active and see you on the other side.